Hey guys, Tom here, and today I have the impossible task of deciding whether I thought this week's Raw or this week's SmackDown Live was better. We're gonna have a little talk about it in today's video, but for the third week in a row, I am bringing you this video. You guys are absolutely loving this series, so smash that like button. If we can get 200 likes, I will upload a video next week discussing the same topic. So let's talk about it. Was Raw or SmackDown Live better? This is probably the hardest episode I will do from this series. It's just so difficult. Honestly, I'm gonna go for Monday Night Raw this week. I know that isn't going to be the popular decision, but honestly, for me, I thought that was the more exciting show. Now, overall for the WWE, it was a pretty piss poor week for the company. I mean, Raw was pretty bad, and so was SmackDown. There was just no excitement. It just didn't feel like they were really putting in any effort to both shows. And if you're on holiday this week and you missed the entire Raw, you missed the entire SmackDown, honestly, I wouldn't feel that bad for you because you didn't really miss a lot. So that's why it's really difficult for me to compare both shows, because yes, I'm gonna say Raw was better this week, but only by like that much. So last week I said SmackDown was better, and the week before I said Raw was better. So currently Raw is actually winning 2-1 as of today's episode. So congratulations to Raw, but I wouldn't be feeling that happy about yourselves because it wasn't actually that much better than SmackDown. But why do I think this week's Raw was better than this week's SmackDown? Okay, so I'm gonna have to take my hoodie off for this because it's going to be a heated discussion. Honestly, I found it really difficult to watch both shows this week. Raw, 3 hours, and SmackDown Live, 2 hours. I had to watch SmackDown in 2 parts because it was just not entertaining. I watched the first half, then went and did something else, and then came back for the second half. I just couldn't watch it for 2 hours straight. It just wasn't good. I actually found Raw a little bit easier to watch this week. But why was Raw better? Now, for me, it all comes down to the fact of I care way more about what is happening on Monday Night Raw than I care about what's happening on SmackDown. My honest thoughts on SmackDown is, I know Dean Ambrose is going to retain his title at SummerSlam. I'm almost pretty sure Apollo Crews is going to win the Intercontinental title off The Miz at SummerSlam. I really don't care for either of the feuds. I'm just not bothered. But on Monday Night Raw, there's so much more to stick your teeth in. I mean, you've got an awesome Universal title match. Finn Balor taking on Seth Rollins. That could potentially be match of the year. You've got a possible title change with Rusev against Roman Reigns. This match could be the making of Roman Reigns. I'm honestly really excited for that match. You've also got the Tag Team Championship match. You've got the New Day taking on Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, who really look like they're going to take the titles off the New Day. And last but certainly not least, you've got the women's title match, the rematch of all rematches, Charlotte taking on Sasha Banks. So for me, there's already 4 huge title bouts I am absolutely buzzing for on Monday Night Raw. But on SmackDown, who really cares about The Miz against Apollo Crews? I'm not really that convinced. And they honestly didn't show me this week I should care about this match. There was absolutely no build for it whatsoever. You had Miz and Maurice backstage with Renee Young, and that was it. They didn't build the match at all. And Dolph Ziggler against Dean Ambrose, it just doesn't feel special. It's a little bit too late for Dolph Ziggler. They haven't spent any time building Dolph Ziggler up. He does not look like a credible champion at all. Does anybody in their right mind believe Dolph Ziggler is defeating Dean Ambrose for the title at SummerSlam? No way. So most of this week's SmackDown was just a waste of time. But on Monday Night Raw, I care a lot more about their SummerSlam matches. Rusev against Roman Reigns is really shaping up to be a pretty decent match. I don't know which way that match is going to go. Is Roman Reigns going to take the title? Is Rusev going to job him out? I am really invested in this feud. And even Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, the build on this week's Raw might not have been that good, but do they really need to build it up that much? I'm just really excited for the match. Now, Seth Rollins' promo on this week's Raw was great. So was Finn Balor's. Pretty fantastic. I'm going to come out and say it. I am excited for this match. Now, the build for the tag team titles hasn't been particularly great, but at the end of the day, I'm still interested in what Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson do week in and week out to send a message to the New Day. And I was convinced that Sasha Banks against Charlotte was the match we wanted to see months ago, so whatever they do, I'm interested in this match. Now, the execution on this week's Raw to build up those matches might not have been as good, but I still cared about what they did with it. Like, come on, that Dana Brooke and Sasha Banks match was absolutely awful. It was set up to build up their match at SummerSlam. Was Dana Brooke going to join up with Charlotte in that match? Turns out the match was, pretty crap, pretty disappointing. But at least I care about the match. Who really cares about Dean Ambrose against Dolph Ziggler? Who really in their right mind cares about Apollo Crews and The Miz? I honestly thought both shows had some really good opening segments. I absolutely loved the Enzo and Cass and Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens segment. That was hilarious, and that's another match I'm really looking forward to too. And also, SmackDown had a pretty good opening segment as well, didn't it? You had Bray Wyatt and Eric Rowan cut a promo in the middle of the ring, then you had Dean come out, and Dolph Ziggler come out. Dolph Ziggler accidentally superkicks Dean Ambrose. It was pretty entertaining though. For me, it kind of feels like SmackDown this week and the weeks before, they're sort of going through the motions of creating a wrestling show, but not really making it compelling or actually making it as if you want to watch it. So you had American Alpha come out and have their match against two jobbers. You had that entire tag team division come out, surround the ring, which for one didn't make any absolute sense. But they're not fighting for a title. What's the point of having a tag team division on SmackDown which isn't really fighting for anything? You also have the same problem with the women's division. You had Eva Marie's stupid wardrobe malfunction, which for me, I understand she's trying to be a heel, she's trying to get people to boo her because she's copping out, she doesn't want a match, but there's a fine line between caring and just being bored. I don't care. And I don't care about the women's division on SmackDown. What are they fighting for? Absolutely nothing. It just feels like a waste of time. And that tag match at the end of SmackDown, I don't understand why Bray Wyatt is mixed in with the title picture with Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler. It just looks like a mess. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand what is going on with SmackDown. It's just all over the place. It doesn't really feel like they have a purpose. Ugh. And we haven't even got onto the topic that AJ Styles and John Cena were not on this week's SmackDown. They're supposed to have a huge SummerSlam match in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and they weren't even on the show. We've still got this thing with Heath Slater against Rhino. I mean, the promo on the first SmackDown Live from Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan was, any superstar can reach for anything. There's no glass ceiling. So Heath Slater cuts an amazing promo on that SmackDown. 2 weeks later, in a row, he gets gored by Rhino. Makes absolutely no sense. I don't know, it just feels like Raw has a purpose and kind of knows what it's doing, and SmackDown's still kind of trying to establish itself. It just feels a bit fluffy. It doesn't feel that convincing. I mean, SmackDown is always going to feel this way if they don't have a tag team title or they don't have a women's title. What are those divisions fighting for? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the only real SmackDown match I cared about for SummerSlam, AJ Styles against John Cena, it wasn't even featured on the show. Now, both shows weren't that entertaining, but I'm just really not invested in hardly anybody on the SmackDown roster. Yeah, I might be invested in Dean Ambrose, I might be invested in AJ Styles and John Cena, but who else am I invested in? American Alpha, okay, but then we're looking, well, I don't really care about anybody else. Now, Raw this week was not amazing. It was pretty bad as well. I mean, in between some of the good stuff, there was some really, really bad stuff. I mean, I waited a whole 3 hours to see the Mick Foley and Daniel Bryan conversation. It lasted about 5 minutes. It served absolutely no purpose. We got a random title match to end the show, which just felt completely out of place. I mean, there was that horrendous Darren Young versus Titus O'Neil match for the 2nd week in a row. Neville and Sin Cara against the Dudley Boys. Horrendous. Sasha Banks against Dana Brooke. No, absolutely no comment. And even Luke Gallows against Kofi Kingston, a match which lasted about 1 minute and did absolutely nothing. I do think Monday Night Raw this week did have the best match of the week. Cesaro taking on Sheamus. Who think I would say Sheamus had the best match of the week. But he did. Cesaro against Sheamus was an absolutely fantastic match. So Monday Night Raw felt like it served a purpose. There was some really questionable, stupid, boring, retarded stuff on this week's Raw. But in between those retarded things, I am still pretty excited for their SummerSlam matches. As SmackDown goes, it was a pretty consistent show. There wasn't anything, horrendous. But I just don't care about it. I mean, it was consistently kind of average the whole way through the show. Raw sort of went up, then down, then up, then down. SmackDown was just like that the whole way through the night, and it really didn't reach the second gear. At points maybe Raw did reach the second gear, but in points it did kind of drop below the 0 gear, if that makes any sense. I think as a wrestling fan, you did get more out of Raw this week than you got out of SmackDown this week. I know that will be an unpopular decision. People will say SmackDown was 2 hours, it was great, we got everything we wanted, but we really didn't. We didn't get anything from this week's SmackDown or Raw that we really wanted. So for me, I'm going to give it to Raw this week. I wanted to give it to SmackDown. I wanted to see them take the lead, but I just wasn't entertained by this week's SmackDown. I tried to care, but I don't care. I can't make myself care about something which just isn't there. But anyway, Raw gets my shout this week. What do you guys think? I think this is going to be a pretty controversial video. Comment below why you may have given SmackDown the shout over Raw and why you would say Raw was better than SmackDown. I know it's going to be 50-50. It's going to be pretty split. Anyway, thanks for watching. Smash that likes. 200 likes is the aim. Take care. Spike your hair.